All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to session one of the Defined Symposium series. I'm Lisa Wolf from Defined. And just so you know, today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a recording in the next few days. Today's presenters are Jorge Valenzuela and Dr. Karen Barber from Santa Rosa County District Schools. And I'm very pleased to introduce the host of today's symposium, Jorge. Jorge is a highly sought after and well-regarded performance and education coach, author, and speaker at Lifelong Learning Defined. He got his start in education and has helped countless educators improve their instructional leadership and teaching skills. Jorge specializes in emphasizing instructional innovation through action research and is a trusted deliverer of reputable professional training in collaborative team building, core instruction, project-based learning, STEM pathways, entrepreneurship, and life skills integration across the curriculum. Jorge is going to kick off the symposium by covering how teachers having high expectations can lead to positive interactions and student learning outcomes. He will introduce empathy mapping for teachers to better align academic and career learning for kids. So Jorge, take it away.
Lisa, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Big shout out to you, Lisa, and to Molly for making all this happen behind the scenes, and to the entire Defined team. Again, my name is Jorge Valenzuela, and I am your host for our session today. Let's dive in. Now, I have a question for everyone in the audience. Can our unconscious expectations influence the performance of others? It's a yes or no. Please drop your responses in the chat, and I'll wait a moment to see what people say. Okay, people are saying yes. Okay, fantastic. Have you ever heard that speaking kindly to plants helps them grow? And you can respond to that as well. Okay? If speaking kindly to plants helps them grow, imagine what it can do for humans. Researcher Dr. Rob Rosenthal in 2015 conducted research using lab rats to answer this question. In the middle of the night, Bob got devious and he snuck into his lab and he labeled some of the rats smart and the others not smart. In the morning, when the other researchers came into the lab, they believed those labels. The outcome was that in experiments using mazes, the rats who were labeled smart outperformed the others. It wasn't even close. So here's what we learned. Expectations can have a significant impact on interactions and learning. It turns out that the rats that were labeled smart were held gentler and were talked to kinder. Now, this phenomenon also extends to humans. And here's what we've learned. It's been shown that they improve interactions and high expectations, improve academic achievement, the behavior and attitudes of teenagers, isn't that nice? And even how soldiers perform. A school district in Texas set out to prove the power of positive interactions and high expectations with kids. I want you to check this out.
They asked us to pick a student
that we really believe in.
I picked you.
And I chose you.
And I chose you.
I chose you because every day you have an infectious smile and you always have the greatest attitude.
I knew that you were my student. You were the reason that I come to work every day, every single day.
Because you're so passionate, it just brightens my day every day to know that I get to see you.
And I picked you because I wanted to tell you how much you inspire me every day. Every day you smile, and you make me so happy.
Thank you.
You inspire me to be better.
And you're very special to me.
We were asked to think of a student that we believed in. And Dakota, what I believe about you
is that you are amazing, that you have overcome some hard things in your life, and you overcome them with a smile.
I chose you.
I love you to death. I've loved having you in class all last year.
He wanted us to pick someone who we believe in and why we come to work every day, because it's not for the money. And I chose you.
So very proud of the direction that you're going in, and I just think that you have endless possibilities ahead of you.
Our whole class looks to you to make us laugh every single day.
And I just wanted to let you know that I believe in you.
You can do anything you put your mind to, and you have a bright future ahead of you, so I chose you.
I believe in you. I love you. I think you guys are the absolute best thing ever. So I want you to know that I believe in you.
I believe in me.
I believe in.
All right, so the interest of time, I'll stop there and I'll get back into my slides, but I want you to reflect for a moment on what you just saw. And I'm pretty sure if you're working with young people, you definitely can definitely relate to some of those faces. So I do want to say this. I visit many schools in our country, and we're seeing a huge disconnect in relationships. Lots of teachers are now coming to us from non-traditional pathways, and many don't know that having high expectations and positive interactions are really the first step to learning. So what I want is every teacher that's in the audience or anyone that's interacting with young people at the school, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to speak positivity into my students. Thank you. Now, all my school leaders, all my administrators, even the folks in central office, please put your right hand up and repeat after me. I promise to speak positivity into my teachers and staff. Thank you. Now, what I want you to do is this. I want you to grab your cell phone and I want you to identify someone in your life who would really benefit from your encouragement. And I want you to send them a thoughtful text expressing gratitude. If you're not comfortable doing that, then just go into your notes and craft a message for someone that you're going to be interacting with soon. And just frame what you want to say. Think of something they do well and start there. And I'm going to check back with everyone in about a minute. Okay? And I'm going to time my clock here. And we got some folks actually putting stuff into the chat. The power of word, Maya Angelou's quote, still reverberating today. You may not remember what they say or did, but you will never forget how they made you feel. And that's right. I love that quote as well. Okay. So take a moment. Okay. Finish your thought and send your text. Now, I do want to say this to y'all. I started doing this about a year ago, and my relationships aren't perfect, but they definitely have improved. It's a work in process. It's a work in progress. Okay. Now, I always practice what I preach, and I talk kindly to people even when they don't do it to me. So does anyone here have a cat? And I want to see your responses in the chat. Do you have a cat? Let's see what people say. Yes, yes. Okay. So we have a lot of yeses. Now, cats are not like dogs. And this is Graham, my family pet. And Graham is a toxic little guy. If Graham was a person, he would be the type to read your text, leave it read, and wouldn't respond. He then walks up to you and rubs on your leg, but when you go to pet him, he backs up and runs the other way. And I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about if you own a cat. Now, this is toxic behavior because you think you're forming a bond, but you're not. So one day I said, let me practice what I preach and talk some positivity into Graham. I picked him up and I began saying things like, you love our family and you love to be held. Now, my wife overheard me and said, are you crazy? But I kid you not, it's been working slowly. Since last winter break, he now jumps into our bed, and every morning he allows us to cuddle him for about 5 to 10 minutes. It does work, so I encourage you to please try this with everyone in your life, even your pet, not just your plants and not just people. Now, if you look into the chat, I am dropping an article that I wrote that explains the science behind everything I just said. High expectations, positive interactions. It's got the video that I just showed you. It unpacks all of that, but it also gives you other strategies that you can incorporate into your practice. Okay? Let me know that you guys got the link. Let me see what people are saying in the chat. Fantastic. Okay. Now don't read it now. Read it later. All right. Our teaching should always be a balance between aligning our academic content or whatever content we teach and cultivating the interests and passions of young people. An old mentor once said to me, before making any instructional decisions, before purchasing equipment, books, and going to conferences and going to PD, always ask yourself, what do the kids I teach need? Our teaching should never be about us. It should always be about the kids, but it needs to begin with us in becoming what the kids in our classroom need us to be. So I have another question for you. What do the youth that you teach need? Or the kids in your school system, what do they need? Drop it in the chat. And this is really how we should begin our projects, our lessons, planning, bringing in speakers, buying any curriculum, is seeing what the kids need. Yes, love, compassion, empathy, our literacy skills. That's right, that's right. Now, studies show that kids want learning tailored to their interests. They also want it relevant to their current lives, who they are now, and their future aspirations. And they want some choice in what and how they learn. Now, when we learn this way, learning this way makes learning student-centered because it allows young people to see themselves in the curriculum. Please give me a thumbs up in the chat if you follow these data points. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Okay. So here are some quick gems. Farmers can't make plants grow. Plants will grow themselves. Good farmers know what the conditions for growth are, and those still learning how to be good farmers don't know yet. Similarly, teachers can't make young people learn. Kids learn on their own. Now, good teachers understand high-yielding strategies and know the conditions for learning to occur naturally. And those still learning how to be good teachers may not know yet. So here's a question. If we can't make young people learn, then how can we help them learn? Prominent researcher John Hattie once said, see learning through the eyes of young people, the eyes of our students, meaning we have to know them both as people and learners. So that leads to another question. How can we help young people learn? Have you ever heard of empathy mapping? Drop your response in the chat. Have you heard of empathy mapping? No? Okay. Well, I'll explain it. And I will provide you this template, and I will give you practice today. Now, empathy maps, they come to us from the business world. Fortune 500 companies use empathy maps when developing or improving a product. First, they conduct focus groups and interviews, and then they create the maps to learn more about the thoughts and feelings of the consumer. So for education, I created this version that you see on the screen. Now, teachers can create an empathy map to better connect with students, but also make better instructional decisions. Now, knowing them as people, like John Hattie said, are their interests and their goals and their assets. Knowing them as learners are their academic needs, their career needs, and their life skills needs. And if you think about it, in school, there's 3 buckets of learning. There's academic learning, There is career learning and also life skills learning. So here's an example of a completed empathy map for an English language learner learning to read and speak English. Take a moment and look over the map. Okay, and I'm going to share the template in a moment, but before I do that, I want to show you a quick video explaining empathy mapping. And let me know in the chat if you can hear the video, please. An empathy map is a simple visual tool that educators can use to connect with their students. Empathy mapping is used for building relationships and to make better instructional decisions based on the needs of our kids. Empathy maps are typically divided into sections with a representation of a student in the center. Each section helps us to learn more about our students. Interests and goals are things that they like sports, music. It's important to know their interests and goals so we can connect something that they love to something in the curriculum. Examples of assets are areas of strength, like fluency in a language. They're a good listener, they're a systems thinker, or they've mastered a specific skill. Academic needs are the areas that our students need to improve in. If I'm an English language arts teacher, the ability to interpret informational text. If I'm a math teacher, unit conversion or proportional reasoning. SEL needs are skill sets that relate to self and also others. These include self-awareness, social awareness, and also responsible decision-making. Career needs are soft skills like communication, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, skills that we know that our young people need now, but also in the future. Traditional ways of collecting information can be through polls, surveys, and looking at their work. But knowledge of students can also be gleaned in classroom discussions, paying attention to what they care about, recognizing their gifts and abilities, and in things that they voluntarily talk about. Empathy maps can be used to make instructional decisions, such as appropriate scaffolds, differentiation, and themes of projects or lessons. They can also be used to co-design learning experiences around what matters most to students. I have found the empathy mapping process extremely useful for determining where I need to become more socially and culturally competent regarding the students that I serve. Think of the student who needs you the most and start there. Okay, so in the chat, I've dropped a template, and I want you to let me know if you see the template. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Now it's going to be your turn. I've got to go to that slide. Okay, now it's your turn. Now, I want to give you a minute, all right? That's all we got, but you've got the template. It's a PDF, but you can actually edit this PDF. It's got this example, but I want you to, if you're interacting with young people, think of the student who needs you the most and just look at mine as an example and start to fill in things you know about them, their interests and goals and their assets, and then their learning, okay? So I'm going to time this and give you guys some practice. And in my PBL workshops, one thing we do is before making instructional decisions, when we're planning our units, this is something that we incorporate into the level setting part of the project. Yeah, not for all students, right? If you have 150 kids, there's no way you can do this. Think of that kid that needs you the most and start there. Now, not the kid who annoys you the most, because that's a deficit mindset. The kid who needs you the most. The kid that you need to connect with most, that needs you. And that's where you start. And imagine when an entire PLC, an entire grade level of teachers that share a student, because don't forget, we're siloed, but the kids aren't. They see each of us, especially at a grade level. So if we all get on the same page about one student that really needs us, then we can know how to help them, what type of positive interactions he or she may need, and also how to make our instructional decisions. Okay, I'm reading at the same time as I'm trying to talk. So we no, we don't fill them out for every kid. You think of the kid that you need, that needs you the most, and you start there. Okay. Let me know if you try to edit my PDF, if you can write inside of the PDF. What I try to do is make things as simple as possible for educators, whether administrators or teachers. And so I try to give you the tools that you can use immediately. So if you're a principal watching this in your grade level planning meetings, make sure you incorporate some empathy mapping. Okay. Okay, so y'all can definitely watch the video later on and you can practice. But before I introduce Dr. Barber, let's reflect for a moment. How can I use empathy mapping to determine vital career skills for kids and to make better informed instructional decisions? Drop your responses in the chat and I'll read a couple of them and then I'll introduce Dr. Barber. This will help me get to know the students assigned to me for mentoring this year. And that's from Heather. Heather, how are you? Thank you for sharing your reflection. Let's hear from one more person. It can help me gear my instruction towards interests and needs. Exactly. A lot of times we're teaching content standards, our competencies, but don't forget, learning is a collaborative process. It's a collaboration between young people and adults. And so it should be an alignment as much as we can, an alignment between what we have to teach and what the kids are into. I remember as a kid, I did everything I was told, even as an adult, a young adult. I went to college, I got a career, I got married, I did everything that they told me to do and never learned what I wanted to do. And so I had to figure all that out in my 30s and my early 40s. So help kids get started now. All right, y'all. So before I depart, here is a link to my website. It's in the chat. But also, I want to put a link to my podcast. And I am proud to say that Defined is the sponsor or is a sponsor for my podcast. It would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to my podcast. It's in the chat, also on YouTube. It would mean a lot to me. Okay, so enough about my part. Now let's get into Dr. Barber. In her 38-year career in education, Dr. Karen Barber has been a teacher, school principal, adjunct professor, and director of federal programs. Her leadership also includes pioneering the K-12 STEAM Innovate program, emphasizing STEM and career development. As a military spouse of 15 years, Dr. Barber is dedicated to supporting military families and expanding partnerships. Under her tenure as superintendent, the district secured, are y'all ready for this? A $9 million Triumph of the Gulf Coast grant to establish the Santa Rosa Center for Innovation. Her recognitions, among many, include Woman of the Year in 2022 by the Santa Rosa Chamber of Commerce and Florida's Innovative Teacher, and Florida's Innovative Technology Principal of the Year in 2008. I welcome Dr. Karen Barber for our keynote, and I'm going to stop sharing. Dr.
Well,
Barber,
hello, George. Yes, thank you. Boy, so much of what you shared with everyone during your presentation, George, is just so validating. And I think you're going to hear some recurring themes in the information that I share with folks that is definitely supported by the research that you have provided. So very excited. I think, have you peeked at my presentation? Because I think
No,
that,
but I was told that you
yes.
think that, or that you believe that high expectations, it's very important. So I found out at the last minute I was presenting, so I had to put
Yeah.
that together. So it was because of you. So yes, it was because of you.
Well, absolutely true. So we're going to switch to my screen here, and I'll share my screen there. George, can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you for that introduction, and thank you so much for all of the tools and strategies that you provided us during your presentation, George. We'll be sharing those. We have a principal meeting tomorrow here in Santa Rosa County, and I'm very eager to share some of the tools that you provided us during this symposium. So yes, Dr. Karen Barber, Superintendent of Schools for Santa Rosa County School District. Very proud superintendent. So for about the next 50 minutes, there's a couple of goals that I have. One is that for those participants that are joining us today that are already using the defined curriculum, I really want to validate your decision to do so and really show that through educational research, the implementation of project-based learning and the defined curriculum is definitely supported through educational research. Okay. And then the other thing is that for participants who maybe are new to Defined, just learning about Defined, wanting to ensure fidelity with project-based learning, getting the maximum amount of student learning from project-based learning, hopefully the foundation and I'm going to take you through about 12 years of the journey with Santa Rosa County and what we have done to lay that foundation to prepare ourselves to do this work really, really well. So the first thing that I want to show you is our roadmap to hope. This is the visual representation this year in our school district of what we are about and what is present in classrooms. You see there that our theme for this school year is keeping the dream alive, a roadmap to hope. We really believe in Santa Rosa County that every one of our educators is a guardian of children's dreams. And we want to help them keep those dreams alive, help them to realize those dreams as they enter adulthood. We feel very, very serious that it's got to be the student's dream and that we are here to support them in those dreams. But what you see along this roadmap are things that are in place in our school district right now. So when you look at those location pins, you'll see Marzano's instructional framework, instructional empowerment, and student-led academic teams. Those things have been in place, and now we are adding our implementation of the defined learning curriculum, and our destination, of course, is student success, not only graduation, but lifelong success. You'll also see along this representation some road signs. These might be familiar to you, George. High expectation, strong instructional practices, grade appropriate assignments, and deep student engagement. Those are our goals. Those are our guiding principles in Santa Rosa County. So as I share with you our journey over the last 12 years, this is the culmination of that work. So a little bit about Santa Rosa County first. We are in Florida. And in Florida, every county is a school district. So there are 67 counties in Florida and 67 public school districts in Florida. Our school district is located in the Northwest Panhandle of Florida. So if you're familiar with Pensacola or Destin, Florida, we sit smack dab in the middle there. We have approximately 30,000 students and 3,700 educators. And when I say the word educators, I'm talking about not just teachers and administrators, but we're talking about paraprofessionals, educational support employees, bus drivers, food service workers, custodians. Every individual that steps onto our campus, we consider part of our mission, part of our educator family, because we know that children are always learning from the adults that they are surrounded with. And so every person on our campus, on our school buses, in our cafeterias, they're educators. They are teaching children. We have 35 school sites. In Florida, we have an accountability system with grades, and we are an A-rated school district. A career academies, workforce education, extremely important in Santa Rosa County. And right now we have over 65 career academies that our students can participate in. In Florida, of course, we have the Space Coast, Cape Canaveral, and the Kennedy Space Center. A couple years ago, with our director for workforce education, I visited the Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos' rocket manufacturing facility. NASA's down there on the Space Coast. SpaceX is on the Space Coast. And we went to the Blue Origin to just see how they manufacture rockets and to see how we in Santa Rosa County can provide opportunities for our students so that they can be part of the space industry, the aerospace industry. From that visit, we are now considered a Space Florida Space Academy school district, and will really be bringing, especially to our Santa Rosa Center for Innovation, career opportunities and exposure to careers in the space industry. Very excited about that. We've really focused on graduation and expanding the opportunities for our students. So last year, our seniors earned over $36 million in scholarships. That's a 21% increase over the last 3 years. Our graduation rate, 90.4%. That means that students started as a freshman and they finished in their senior year and earned that diploma within 4 years. It doesn't mean that 9.6% of our students dropped out. It just means that we had 90.4% of our students graduate on time and in 4 years. Some of our students with special needs may take longer, and that is okay. As part of our assessment and accountability in Florida, we are one of the top 10 school districts in Florida. And you can see there the results on our rankings out of 67 counties, our assessment results from last year. So we're very proud to be 3rd in algebra, 4th in language arts, 5th in math, 6th in biology and U.S. history, and 9th in geometry. Out of 14 tested areas, we had overall achievement improvement in 13 of those 4. I like to say we are happy, but we are not satisfied. So we are always looking for ways to have deeper engagement with our students, to offer them more opportunities so that they can be successful, not only on state assessments, but after graduation.
Okay, so
let me stop there. I'm going to back up for just a second. I want to just preview. This is just a little sneak peek of what is going on in our classrooms right now. We're very excited and to be able to share where we are in our journey with project-based learning and the defined curriculum. So after we see this sneak peek, then we're going to back up and kind of tell you how we got where we are.
Okay, so we were going to say
road trip. That's the title.
Who does
The non-president. Those good qualities of being a travel agent. Get our stuff.
nothing to go right now.
Reading that rubric, because that's what I'm grading off of, is that rubric. So that it's best to just know exactly what's on there.
Checking your rubric, you know all this. You know you need to do this. And you could probably tell them all about a place once you read.
How I was able to talk with my teammates on which project to do, and when we picked. No, wait, back. And here's our question: do you know how long it takes about telescopes? No internship.
Alright, so we're referring back to that rubric constantly so you do know if you're hitting the mark with your product.
So how did we get there? What you just saw in those classrooms was a lot of best practice, of course, deep student engagement. You heard teachers referring to a scoring rubric. when it came to working with their teammates to complete their project. This didn't happen overnight by any means, and it's supported by so much educational research. So here's Santa Rosa's journey. First of all, STEAM Innovate. This program we started 12 years ago. I was at that time the director for federal programs. So I wrote the majority of our federal grants in Santa Rosa County, Title I, Title IV, Title IX, worked with the other administrators with IDEA and Title II. And then we got some competitive grants as well. I work very closely with Mike Thorpe, who is our assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction now, but 12 years ago, he was our director for professional learning and instructional technology, and I was the director of federal programs. And the two of us combined our federal grant money to create our STEAM Innovate program. This was a first of its kind in the nation, a K through 12, I should say pre-K through 12, transformation of our classrooms. Every classroom, every school, we partnered with Discovery Education and implemented what we called a Teacher Leader Corps program. So all 35 of our school campuses were able to have teachers apply to be a STEAM innovator. And they came together for 5 years and were trained in what a STEAM educational environment looks like. And I heard George mention before communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, the 4 C's. And that's what we were trying to implement through our STEAM Innovate program and our professional development of our teachers. As they became experts in what a STEAMy teaching learning environment looked like, they became model classrooms at their schools. They held professional learning communities with teachers. They sponsored STEAM nights for families and students at their schools. They brought in business and industry partners from their areas to support this STEAM Innovate environment. And so we started this 12 years ago. We have sustained this program. We have innovators to this day who are coming for professional development, taking that back in kind of a train the trainer model to our schools. So we're really excited that we've been able to provide that. And of course, STEAM is not just about those areas of science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. It's about those 4 C's. It's about real world learning, project-based learning, all connected to careers and problem solving. So this was kind of our start 12 years ago. I mentioned to you that career technical education is really important to us, and that did not start last year, but here are some of the highlights of where we are with career technical education in Santa Rosa right now. We really believe that we're preparing students for high skill, high wage, in-demand jobs. Out of 17 career clusters, we have career academies and industry certification programs in 13 of 17 career clusters. And we expand that as the market requires. You can see at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, as well as our technical college. In Florida, technical colleges are part of school districts. So in Santa Rosa, we have Laughlin Technical College, and they serve dual enrolled high school students as well as adults in our community. Those middle school and high school students last year earned over 4,037 nationally recognized industry certifications. And you can see 5,723 digital tool certifications also earned by our middle school students. We've expanded that opportunity to our elementary schools as well. We have a lot of career exposures, including career fairs. I really feel we are turning the ship around when it comes to the perception of teachers, but especially students and parents, that students must go to a 4-year college to get a good job. We have students that are graduating high school with credentials in welding, HVAC, pharmacy, cybersecurity, and going straight to work, earning high wage, in-demand jobs. So very excited about that. Laughlin Technical College, I mentioned to you, not only do we have high school students that are dual enrolled there, but we have those adults that are in our program. Through Laughlin Technical College last year, we had 196 graduates that graduated with 577 credentials entering the workforce with one of those high-wage, in-demand jobs in Santa Rosa. So you see the foundation laid when it comes to what we did with our STEAM education and then workforce education.
Dr. Barber.
Yes,
We have a
sir.
couple of questions. Is that okay?
It's great.
Sorry to interrupt. So the state of Ohio says the student collaboration is impressive, and I think everyone can agree. Extremely impressive. We love the video. Can you share how you got to the point of student agency for such young kids so systematically?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And I think what I want to do is kind of take you through how we developed our 5-year strategic plan and then provide you with some of the research and the professional learning that occurred in our school district that led to that high student agency. I definitely know what you're talking about there. And so if you give me a couple slides, I'll make sure that I focus on that question as we go along. How's that sound?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so we did a lot of, and George, you did a lot of reflection and you asked a lot of questions of our participants today. And that's what we have done as well. We've really been reflective and we've asked questions. So when I became superintendent in 2020, and by the way, I'm an elected superintendent in Florida, there are elected and appointed superintendents. So I was elected in 2020 and I'm happy to say I was reelected. So I'll be serving another 4 years. But we changed some things, right? Every leader does. And one of the things that was important to us, to me and my team, was that our strategic planning process be authentic, that it be reflective, that it be inclusive. So we went from an annual strategic plan to developing a 5-year strategic plan. And right now we are in the 3rd year of implementation with this plan. What you see in front of you is a picture from one of our town halls back in November of 2021. So we contracted with Cognia. We put out a request for a proposal, and Cognia was the one that rose to the top. And so they helped facilitate our strategic planning process. And it was about a 10-month process for us. This was not easy work. It was not fast work. It was very carefully thought out, very reflective. And so you see this cafeteria pretty full for a town hall. We had 33,000 stakeholders completed surveys for us. We had 6 town halls, 34 small group discussions, then one-on-one interviews, over 100 with parents, teachers, community members, but especially students. And we learned so much, especially from our students. What do you need? What are your interests? This should sound familiar from George's presentation. What are we doing well? What do you want us to do differently? All of that data led us to develop this beautiful strategic plan that we are implementing in our school district. It's a very organic plan. And so there is some revision every year based on the outcomes that we have. Part of that work meant we really need to examine and decide, who are we in Santa Rosa County? What is most important for us? You'll see our logo in the corner there, that mortar board in the book. It used to be a torch representing, I guess, knowledge and light. But we really wanted our logo to reflect what is important in Santa Rosa County and what do we do. We revised our mission, vision, and our beliefs. And you can see what our mission is, and it's pretty bold: to love, educate, and prepare all students for graduation and a successful future. Every employee in our school district knows this mission. Our families know this mission. Our community knows this mission. And so every decision that we make, every dollar we spend, needs to be in pursuit of realizing this mission. Our vision, you can see, providing an environment that fosters each learner's potential, equips students for academic excellence, and promotes lifelong learning. As I continue to share our journey, and I show you a couple more videos, look to see if you can see this vision and mission alive in our classrooms. And then our beliefs. We believe that all students are capable of learning and graduating from high school, of reaching their highest potential. We believe all students deserve that high quality educational opportunity. So every day we're striving to improve our craft and to improve the outcomes for our students. And that all stakeholders working together to meet the needs of students is also necessary. So partnerships like the one we have with Defined is right there embedded in all of this work. Our strategic themes that were identified from all the data that we gathered settled into 4 areas: student engagement and support, data use for program evaluation, so making sure that any investment that we have has a return on investment or a return on instruction, shared instructional leadership, and stakeholder communication and engagement. And you can see Defined, as I continue to talk about implementation of Defined, fits beautifully into all 4 of these, but certainly our main focus is on student engagement and support. And if we're going to do that well, then we have to have that shared instructional leadership. And we'll talk more about those 2 areas and how Defined is part of those 2 areas as we move along. So as superintendent, when I took office in 2020, and I've already been here in this school system quite a long time, I really had to define what my purpose was. What are the priorities for a superintendent? And one of those priorities, I think probably one of the most important priorities, is that I be the lead instructional leader and that I continue to foster and nurture professional growth in our school leaders. If you've been a school leader or a district leader, you know that there's so much urgency in what we do in taking care of others that our own professional learning can flatline. And that we can't afford that. We can't have that happen. So we have monthly principal and assistant principals meetings in Santa Rosa County. And for each one of those full day meetings, there's about an hour, sometimes a little bit more, in which I am teaching. I'm going to continue. I'm a teacher at my core. I want to continue to teach, and I'm teaching the leaders of our school district. So back in 2020, one of the first things that I did was to share with them this Wallace Foundation study. It is excellent. If you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it is absolutely worth a read. But it really shows the effect that an effective school principal can have on student learning and on school achievement. It's a 20-year meta-analysis of research. My purpose in sharing this Wallace Foundation study with our principals and assistant principals was to say, folks, you are so important. The impact you have on the lives of your students and the lives of your educators in your building is profound. If you are effective, you are going to make a huge difference. And research supports the fact that an effective school principal can change student achievement and advance student achievement, whereas an ineffective principal will have the opposite effect. So I really wanted to get their attention to say, you are powerful, you have impact, and you have responsibilities. If you're going to be a school leader, we're going to be great school leaders, and we're going to do what is best for students, but we're going to have educational research behind every decision that we make. So that was the first step in this journey that we were on, backing up 4 years. After we processed and reflected on the Wallace Foundation study, we then started a full year book study on the work of Paul Bambrick-Santoyo and leverage leadership. This is a heavy, heavy book, but an excellent one. And it really prepared our administrators for this journey. And you saw the outcome in that little preview video that I showed you. Leverage leadership in the work of Paul Bambrick-Santoyo identifies 7 levers or 7 ways in which, if leaders will spend their time, you are going to see significant increases in academic achievement. And those levers fall into really 2 areas. The first one is the instructional levers. Okay. And so through this book, they give you great examples, great videos, but research that supports spending your time in this manner, not on managerial tasks. And those have to be done, right? We know that. But the leverage leaders, the levers that are most impactful when it comes to school and student achievement is data-driven instruction. Are we spending our time on that as the leader? Observation and feedback, being in those classrooms, providing specific feedback. Instructional planning that's standards-based, that determines what students need to know and be able to do. Then we plan instruction. So we're working backwards. And then we're looking at our assessment data to see what do we need to reteach? What are we ready for next? Professional development is absolutely critical to this as well. And I think you can see that in all of these instructional levers, Defined has a presence. And then there's the cultural side, the cultural levels. The first one is the student culture, staff culture, and then leading leaders. So the cultural side, very, very important as well. And so we've tried to really address all these 7 levers throughout this book study that we did with all of our assistant principals, and district leaders. The next step, we adopted Marzano's new instructional framework, okay? And you can see at the top, it says the teacher evaluation model. It is, but it is really a growth model. So after leverage leadership, we were very, very prepared to go to this new evaluation model. And if you've done that before, if you've changed models, you know it can be a really painful, bumpy process. It wasn't for us. And there are a couple reasons why. First of all, we had that foundation with leverage leadership in the Wallace Foundation study. But then when we, went into our contract with Learning Sciences International, now Instructional Empowerment, for this new Marzano evaluation model, we had them come and do a 3-day training in June for all of our administrators. We wanted them to be very comfortable in using this new evaluation model. And then we had some extra Title II money with Roll Forward, and we were able to take all of our administrators to the Building Expertise Conference. Sometimes people call it the Marzano Conference, but this is hosted by Instructional Empowerment, and we learned more about this teacher evaluation model. And I want to look at this with you very quickly. There are 4 domains in this evaluation model. The 2 that I really want you to focus on are the conditions for learning. Okay, so look at some of the elements there that we are focusing on when we're doing our evaluation, but conducting our classroom walkthroughs. We're looking for formative assessment and students tracking progress, providing feedback, celebrating progress, organizing students to interact with the content, establishing and acknowledging rules and procedures, using engagement strategies, maintaining effective relationships in a student-centered classroom, communicating high expectations for each student to close the achievement gap. I think you heard some of these same conditions that George talked about. And I believe that if you were watching that first preview video, you've seen some of those conditions present. Now let's look at the other standard-based instruction. There we're identifying critical content from the standards. That's very important. Previewing, of course, new content as we do. Reviewing content as well. Using questioning to help students elaborate on the content. And then those last few bullets, very important, helping students to practice skills, strategies, and processes, examine similarities and differences, examine their own reasoning, revising their knowledge, but most importantly, helping students to engage in cognitively complex tasks. As we continue to share our story today,
Dr.
look
Barber.
for these, yes.
So every administrator, every building administrator, and I would imagine some district level folks have a question, or they're going to love this question. I got a question in the chat. How do you ensure teacher buy-in and commitment? Because as we know, what you're saying here, well, we know these are high yielding strategies. Anything with
Yeah.
Marzano, anything with John Hattie
Yeah.
is research based, and you've shown the evidence. So how did you deal with the naysayers? How did you deal with how did you get them committed?
Well, listen, our STEAM innovators, those teachers that applied to be STEAM innovators who went through the professional development that we provided, started implementing in their classrooms. So at first, it's been the coalition of the willing, right? Our teachers have choices in what professional learning community they'd like to participate in. But the response of our students to project-based learning, to that STEAM environment, it sold itself. We were just shocked. We kind of had a plan. We were going to start with our elementary grades first when it came to our STEAM Innovate program, and do that for 2 years. And in year 3, we were going to add middle school, and in year 4, we were going to add high school. And the response from parents, from students, was so positive, but so profound that we had to revise our timeline. And so in the next year, middle and high came on board.
Now that wait, hold on. So that leads into another question, but I do want to make a comment. I'm a big fan of Jay McTighe, and I know folks at Defined know Jay McTighe. And Jay says that when you're starting an initiative, you roll it out with the folks that have the will, and you give them the skill. So the people who are on the fence, when they see those results, then they want to jump in, which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So big kudos to you and to Jay. The state of Texas is asking, how did you ensure parent and buy-in from your community, which you were just starting to touch upon. So I just want to acknowledge the state of Texas that we are answering the question.
Right. We really have to tell our story. We have a public information officer and family outreach officer in our county. We use some ESSER dollars to create that position. And now that ESSER has gone away, we still need her. And she helps us to tell our story. So we have a monthly interactive news magazine that comes out that helps us to tell our story. Big social media presence as well. But from the very beginning, we would have STEAM family nights at our schools, all of our schools, and the participation, getting our families to school to see what it looks like, incredible response. And we've sustained that over the last 12 years. So, you know, I'll tell you, this past weekend, I was at a community event and I met one of my 5th graders from one of my elementary schools. Didn't know this child at all, but asked her where she went to school and what grade she was in and who her teacher was. And she told me, and I said, well, how's it going? And she said, I am so excited. So far, we have done 3 projects. Now, wow. So how you get parent buy-in? You get the students. They get excited. And when they really see and feel the success, and you're going to hear from the mouths of babes in some of the videos that I show you, yeah, it's been an easy sell. It really has been. It really has been. So we are now in our 3rd year of implementation with Marzano's teacher evaluation model, and it has gone extremely smoothly. But we're providing our schools with the professional learning and the resources and support to be successful. And it is a growth model. So that's our mindset with our teachers. We're growing, we're learning, we're providing the coaching and the feedback. Okay, a couple other resources that we provided. I know, George, you mentioned John Hattie's work earlier, and yes, that is definitely part of our professional learning in Santa Rosa County. Many of our schools have done professional learning communities with that. And then also this resource from the Marzano Center, creating and using learning targets and performance scales. That is really embedded within the teacher evaluation model. Our growth model, but learning targets and performance scales, or you could say rubrics, are extremely important for kids tracking their progress, which we know is a high effect strategy, but also critical to the work of project-based learning. You heard our teachers refer to rubrics in that first video. And defined learning, as you know, has rubrics embedded and developed for teachers to use along with the other resources, with the videos, with templates, with articles, and the performance task. It really fits in beautifully together. So you can see as we go along how all of this work is really connected. And then finally, and George, you mentioned some of this as well. One of the last things that we did in our journey to this point was to study the research conducted by TNTP. This study is called the opportunity myth. Really, really critical. But it really puts things into 4 basic resources that need to be present. So the myth is that if students show up, they're in attendance every day, they do what the teacher says, they complete their assignments, that they're going to be prepared after high school for success. They're going to be ready for what's next. And that's not necessarily the case. What this research shows is that there really need to be 4 resources present in classrooms every day. And those are strong instruction, high expectations, deep engagement, grade appropriate assignments. When these resources, or what I like to say, conditions for learning, are present in classrooms every day, that's when we see, and research supports this, the greatest amount of learning happen, especially for our students that start the year below grade level. So as I'm doing classroom walkthroughs, and as a superintendent, I do classroom walkthroughs in all 35 of our schools once in 9 weeks. As I'm doing those, I'm walking with our principals and assistant principals. And as we exit a room, we talk then, okay, let's look at the floor conditions for learning. What did you see that was strong? Which area could we improve upon? And then I'm also giving feedback to teachers. So I was just at an elementary school last week, and I mean, she just hit it out of the ballpark with all 4 of these resources. As we left the classroom, as we're debriefing in the hallway with the principal and the assistant principal, I was just so impressed and so excited to see implementation of all 4 of these resources in such a strong manner. And they said, well, gosh, she questions herself a lot. If you could, I said, I'll be right back. I walked back into the classroom, told this teacher how impressed I was, identified those resources, and just thanked her for being such a professional and such an effective teacher. And that went a long way. So looking through these 4 lenses as you're doing classroom walkthroughs, and think about the defined curriculum, and it hits all 4 of these areas. So another piece. One last piece that I want to make sure that you know about, and for some reason this video is not showing right now, but this video, and we'll make sure that this is included as you repost this and share the recording with others, is some work by Dr. Chan Hellman, who's at the University of Oklahoma with the Hope Research Center. When there's a tragedy on your campus, it really stops you in your tracks. And a few years ago, we had a student in our school district who took his own life. And so as superintendent, as I'm going home at night, knowing the responsibility that I have with our 30,000 children, I'm wondering and I'm questioning, what did we miss? What could we have done differently? How can we learn from this to keep the rest of our children from not losing hope? So I started researching hope. And that's where I found this TED Talk from Dr. Chan Hellman from the University of Oklahoma. This video is about 20 minutes long, but well worth it, and can be applied, this science and the power of hope, in so many ways. What Dr. Hellman has discovered is that hope is not a wish. It is an action, which means in schools, it can be taught. It can be taught. And hope is the belief that tomorrow can be better than it is today, and you've got the power to make it so. And so that's really the business we're in as school districts, right? I mean, we are educators. We want kids to get their diploma, but we're really in the business of hope. There are 3 parts to hope. We want them, and this is through the research, we want students to have a desirable goal. We want to provide the pathways to get there, and we want to help them with willpower. And according to Dr. Hellman, willpower is a limited commodity. So so that's why we need the educators who are seeing our students, getting to know them. We need to make sure that our kids have adequate nutrition and rest, of course. But in project-based learning, as we're working in teams together, that also contributes to willpower. If we have a desirable goal and there are choices that children have when they're in project-based learning about how they're going to show that project at the end, that's part of desirable goal. Pathways to get there might be a specific project. It might be a class. It might be extracurricular. But we want to make sure that desirable goals are things we're helping students to identify, that we provide those pathways and we provide that willpower. So again, the work of Dr. Hellman and the Hope Research Center at the University of Oklahoma are part of the foundation of what we are doing with culture in our schools and classrooms. And one last, this is actually going back to George, your question about student agency. When we took all of our administrators to the Building Expertise Conference, one of the keynotes was Michael Toth. And Michael Toth, along with David Sousa, have created some work and an instructional model called Student-Led Academic Teams. It is powerful. This is well beyond putting kids in groups and giving them a task, because in this instructional model for deeper engagement, students have specific tasks that they are responsible for. The groups stay together so that they form bonds, right? That contribute to that willpower. They are accountable to each other. They are there to support each other. So this system or this model of instruction is really, it sets the stage beautifully for project-based learning. So this is the model of instruction that we're using in our classrooms now, student-led academic teams. And there are times for whole group instruction, but you will see a lot of student-led academic teams, and that's really when learning occurs. And then the content that we are using, defined is that content for project-based learning within these student-led academic teams. I can tell you that in Florida, I mentioned to you, we are an A district. We have some schools with significant poverty. And 2 of my elementary schools had a poverty rate near 80%. They were rated C schools last year. They implemented student-led academic teams and defined learning, and they moved from C's to very, very high B rated schools. So it is having an impact. And these are with students who come from economically disadvantaged homes. So extremely, extremely powerful. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is actually out of the mouths of our students. As you listen to them, see if you can refer back to the 4 conditions for learning that need to be present: high expectations, strong instructional strategies, rigorous content, and high student engagement. And think about those elements from the Marzano teacher evaluation model as well.
So my job was I was the one who researched all the facts and made the slides with facts on it. I discovered that I'm actually really good at science and researching.
We were all looking at different things at different times. So while he was searching up like stars and like what star we should do, I was searching up locations, and then he was searching up details about like telescopes and how they can be used. So, and then our other person was not here, so we were doing a lot of it, and it was very, we were also having a fun time getting to work together and not just we weren't being independent at all. We were counting on each other to do each job, so we wouldn't have to, like, one person wasn't doing it, two people weren't doing it, all of us were included in everything.
My favorite part was getting to work with my friends. Well, Vlad asked for help because he was new to the system. He was recently transferred, so I helped him getting on to Defined Learning in the computer. And I researched by going onto Google and searching up facts about the star and then writing them down on a piece of paper to make slides with facts on them.
So we actually have the PowerPoint right here. It is about Proxima Centauri, and it is a pretty cool thing. So it's just like basic things like what is Proxima? It's like how Proxima is a low mass star. Like we did how far away is Proxima, like from the sun, from Earth, and from Mars. We did another Proxima video. We did a review on it, and we did the credits with me because Nelia did the research. Angel found the pictures. Jalen edited. And I did the design and PowerPoint of it.
But what we did not talk about is the color. The color
looks blue.
It is blue because it absorbs red light.
No, that is not red.
Yes.
It is blue because it is one of the hottest stars in the universe.
And it absorbs red light, and that's why it's hot.
Yes, that's why it's hot.
Red light is the coolest of all of them, though. No, it absorbs it.
Can we not fight on camera?
My job was to do the typing and images, or at least find the images.
Oh yeah, there was a problem. So like,
so the problem was we didn't know how to transfer images onto the PowerPoint, but then my teammate Ollie learned how to do it, and now he's the one who gets the images into the presentation. And I'm usually the one who tries to find them for the right ones. Yeah, I realized that I'm a good typer. Teamwork, yeah.
It helped me learn how to communicate well with my team. Yeah, it was super fun working with my team.
It's like easier working together as a team because like if you were working by yourself, you would have like 7 different jobs to do by yourself, and you would have like no one to make you laugh during it. And if you didn't know how to like put the video in, you would have like how we had Nelio. He helped put all the videos in. But like it's just easier because you have your own job, like specifically what you need to do, and like you can freely talk to the people you're working with, and like. Yeah, it just makes it way easier but when you're working with a group.
It has helped me a lot to work with others. Because in the past, I haven't really been the best with working with others, but I worked with others, in my opinion, great during this project. That's important because in high school and middle school, you do a lot of projects that involve teamwork. And with the teamwork that I learned from, that's going to be really good for those projects.
We love working together as a team.
Teamwork, that's the most important thing that I learned.
So I hope that video helps answer the question about student agency. When the structures and support are in place and the more students engage in academic teaming with great content like Defined Learning, where resources are provided, you can see that student agency increase over time. And the teacher who is providing some support can really scaffold where she or he needs to, but over time, that student agency grows and that teacher needs to provide less and less support and can provide observation, of course, formative assessment, feedback, but the students, they're the ones empowered. They're the ones making this happen. So here's some examples. Of course, this didn't happen overnight. We are now in our second year of partnership with Defined Learning. And again, it starts with that professional development and training. One of the mistakes we've made in years past, we've learned from our mistake is that we've trained teachers first and administrators were an afterthought. And that is a big no-no, a big mistake. If you do it that way, then you've compromised the outcomes that you can achieve. So administrators need to be as knowledgeable about defined learning as the teachers need to be. In our first year of defined learning, our administrators received training during our monthly meetings. And then we had our STEAM innovators, those teachers that were already teacher leaders at their school with STEAM. They were the first ones to be introduced to Defined, to embark on project-based learning through the Defined curriculum at their schools. And again, be model classrooms so that other teachers could see the amazing opportunities here, but some of the ways in which the Defined curriculum that's already prepared for them. Sometimes we like to say it's the Hello Fresh of project-based learning. All the ingredients are there, and then you can put your own personal spin on them, but they're there, they're prepared for you, they're convenient, they're standards-based, they're vetted, and you just need to identify what content area, what standards, and what topics that you want to explore with Defined. And especially when it's connected to careers, it makes it even more powerful, and Defined, of course, does that. So our innovators implemented it last year in the classrooms, and then the Coalition of the Willing jumped on board at our schools. This summer, many of our teachers went to their Defined Champ Camp, and we also had deep administrative training on expanding the implementation of Defined. So this, as I said, is our second year. This year, we have 2 different professional development days, and trainers from Defined will be in all 35 of our schools, and they'll be providing, and we had to kind of make this feasible and affordable. So for us on these 2 different days, each school will have a 2-hour Defined training that will continue to add to the knowledge of our teachers. And for some, it may be an introduction. But our goal by the end of the year, many of our teachers have embraced this, and it's part of their daily teaching. Those that aren't quite there yet, our minimum expectation for them is that first semester and second semester, they'll implement one a project-based learning task with Defined in both semesters. We really think that that's the minimum, but that once they see how successful this is, how convenient this is, how standards-based it is, that they're going to implement more than just 2 project-based learning. But that is our minimum expectation for everyone. I want to show you here the before and after with the professional development that we had this summer. Here you can see that with Defined, after our administrative conference in which our administrators had deeper learning with Defined, we had a 99.12% increase in total engagements. You can see 155.77% increase in our educators accessing Defined, and an 84.26% increase in students using Defined. This is just within the first 6 weeks of school. So we're very excited to see what continues to happen with this. Here is another glimpse at this. Student engagement, of course, is one of our main focuses for our strategic plan. And you can see that we've increased that by 73%. Here are some examples of the implementation with Defined in our classrooms. You'll see here 5th grade students really looking at space exploration, very real world for us, being in Florida. And the students had specific tasks that they can culminate into creating products like scientific drawings, posters, virtual presentations. Here's another example with 3rd grade students. Again, very relevant to living in Florida. We have so much tourism here. So this was looking at the careers of tourism travel agency throughout Florida. So the students really work together, and you can see this is very transdisciplinary, where this is not one core area. Students researched, calculated mileage, gas, hotel costs, so a lot of math involved in this. Also social studies and career connected, of course, with travel. Students researched man-made and natural landmarks in Florida, and then planned, places to visit in our state. And finally, here's another 3rd grade one that is very relevant right now with our general election, about 35 days away, I believe. But these 3rd graders dove into the world of election organizers, and through the hands-on Defined projects, were able to have roles and explored the roles of facilitators, timekeepers, reporters, recorders, completing those real-world tasks. But this is something very relevant and very timely for our project. I can tell you that one of our congressmen has a U.S. congressman right now has an app challenge. Students can develop apps and have those compete. And guess what? There is a Defined Learning project related to the creation of apps. And so that's one of the things that we are doing to help our students be able to engage in this challenge that our congressman has offered. In Santa Rosa County at the elementary level, we have the HMH curriculum for our English language arts classes. And so our literacy department is now connecting the dots for us as well. And they're connecting the dots between the Defined projects and our HMH curriculum. So really, really excited to see. We want to make this as convenient as possible, but as relevant as possible. Our math and science department doing exactly the same thing. All right. So next I'm going to show you another video. And this video, well, I'll let these teachers speak for themselves, but listen again for the 4 conditions for learning and that instructional evaluation model.
I am going to talk to you a little bit about Defined Learning today and how we incorporate our student-led academic teams into Defined Learning. So Defined Learning is all about giving students access to careers, awareness to careers, and be able to work collaboratively in their student-led teams. So a few jobs you'll see today: a reporter, facilitator, recorder, and our timekeeper. And they're learning all about election organizers right now, which is a wonderful thing. So as a teacher, Defined Learning has been a really good platform for me, especially to not have to reinvent the wheel. It's given me access to projects, resources that are appropriate for my students, and different research platforms that we can kind of take and then run with in the classroom. So we didn't have to create these projects. They're all in Defined Learning, and that's helped us kind of start from the ground and go up. As a teacher, it's also a really good way for me to be able to incorporate technology, typing, answering real-world questions, real-world careers into the classroom, and that's been really helpful. Defined Learning is all about collaboration, not really, we do want them to gain knowledge, but it's all about working together and problem solving and not there's not one answer to anything or any of these tasks or projects. So it's really about participation, working together, being a good team player, making sure we're following directions, and making sure that we're listening to our friends. Defined learning has basically 4 stages that you go through. The first stage, which is what we're in, is called setting the stage, and that sets them up with all of the background knowledge they're going to need. They'll also do a stage where they research their career, and then at the end they do a creation and product design, which is really the end product or the end grade of the whole thing. They're going to show us what they made based off what they learned. And Defined Learning is really great about giving them choices of what product or creation they want to make.
My students have done tremendous work with their student-led academic teams combined with this project-based learning and Defined Learning. They are able to deal with conflict, work as a team in that they are giving each other tasks so that they're able to actually have something that they're responsible for in the team. And they also know that this is going well beyond just Miss New's classroom. They're going to be using it in middle school, they're going to be using it with sports and in high school, and they've just got the buy-in from me and from their teammates so they can get the job done, and they're doing a tremendous job working together. And as we all know, that is a lifelong skill. Picking the topic that I feel like is going to be the most beneficial to them and tying it to the real world helps them to stay motivated and engaged. So I allow them to look at the different products that they can make, the projects, and then they decide. And once they've decided as a team, then they create their own buy-in, and then it just takes off from there. They do a tremendous job working together because they love the topic. Thank goodness for the agree-disagree cards that go along with the student-led academic team model, because that's what they use for conflict. When I start to hear them going off of the card, I walk around and I'm constantly monitoring for those sentence stems that they're supposed to be using. I disagree, however, or I agree with you, let's take it further. Those types of things just help ease the conflict and give everybody a voice. So conflict has really, what I thought would be tremendous because I picked the teams, has actually worked out lovely because they're being respectful using those cards. I can tell if the student is learning and hitting the standards and progressing through the assignment by how well they can explain it to me candidly. So if I'm asking them questions that don't come off of a script and they can answer that thoughtfully, then I know that they are hitting the mark. After the project's over, we always just sit down and we have a candid discussion about what happened in the project. What I start with is what made it easy and what made it hard, and it gives them the opportunity to tell me absolutely everything they loved about it and what they didn't like, and that gives me kind of a roadmap to the next project and what we can avoid or make more clear.
Okay, so the recent project-based learning that I did with my kids was, we called it the
Okay, George, I'm going to stop there because I know we're running short of time here. That the video is certainly worthwhile watching, and there's a secondary video as well. You'll hear from one of our high school teachers. So, folks can, when they get the recorded version, see the full length of the videos. But I'm noticing we have just a couple of minutes left.
So I do want to ask you a question, but first, everyone, show Dr. Barber some appreciation in the chat for folks that are teachers, that are administrators in districts, even at DOEs. You know, she's a true instructional leader, and that is very, very evident. That was phenomenal, fantastic, and so inspirational. Dr. Barber, can you stop sharing your screen because I can't share?
I will do that.
Fantastic. All right, so let me share my PowerPoint. All right, so we do have a question.
Just a minute. I'm trying to unshare here.
No, it's okay. All right, so here's a question that I got sent to me, and it's a big one. Our district really struggles with leadership continuity at the district level in particular, which makes sustainability and scale challenging in rolling out a vision like yours. How would you suggest that we approach this in our district if our vision is the same as yours in terms of impact and scale? However, we don't have the luxury of leadership continuity.
You know, there are many districts who may change superintendents regularly, and so the shift or priorities changed. But I believe that teachers and our school leaders, if you provide them with the resources and support, the educational resources, the research that should be at the bedrock and the foundation level of instruction, that doesn't change. Certainly research evolves, but I think if you arm your administrators with leverage leadership, with opportunity myth, with some of the resources and support that I've shared, whether Karen Barber remains superintendent or not, let's say I'd lost the election and there's a new superintendent coming in, the professional learning and the empowerment that our leaders have is going to remain.
Truly one of the best presentations I've ever seen from a superintendent. Everyone, please give her snaps. And don't forget that we have 2 more symposiums. One is on February 4th and one on the 25th. And we're going to continue learning from Dr. Barber and the Santa Rosa story. Please mark your calendars. And don't forget, this recording will be emailed to you in about 2-3 days. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, George.